Welcome back. This is the Press Club. Before the break, we were talking about steel ban, carnival generally, whether we want to weigh bringing back steel pan as a main part of the parade of the bands as opposed to the hi-fis, and at what cost economically, membership-wise, for the bands. And you were making a point. I want to give you the opportunity to continue.
Yeah, I'm making the point is that when culture and sports are treated as business, it eventually robs culture and sports of some aspects that are important to us in the name of the profit and loss, the profit margin. It's happening in football. Football used to be, and cricket, they used to be games. Now they're big business. You know, footballers are bought and sold for millions without them even knowing how much. You know, this, I call it the sporting slavery. I could see your point that carnival has become big business, and therefore the main considerations will be cost and value. I'm saying if we accept that that is where carnival should be, and that's where we want it to keep going, to be shaped by business. I mean, you have the intercommercial house calypso competition, and somebody called a radio station to ask, why is the police, why are police officers participating in commercial house? Because they want to know what the police selling, because commercial house is a business, right? So commercial houses have entered, and for the last, I didn't realize they've been 20 years. 20 years we've been having the commercial house.
So you made a point when we were talking about the jazz festival. It's about branding. It might have started off as the private sector, but it has included government agencies as well. The person who won last year wasn't from a private sector
so
agency.
Maybe they need to revisit the name.
The mental health hospital.
Yeah, right, and she was, So that I'm saying, on the one hand, if it's business, if carnival is business, then let's continue as we are. But if, like we are saying, we wanted to preserve tradition, culture, etc., if we have gone as far as removing carnival from Ash Wednesday, from the commercial standpoint, which is where it started, because it was moved because we were competing with Trinidad and other countries that have the traditional carnival starting 2 days before Ash Wednesday. So it was a commercial consideration why we moved. Now, for me, that commercial consideration has been what is driving. I mean, when Calypsonians will tell you they're not singing because they're not getting government money, I believe that Calypso is at a stage where the Calypsonians ought to see Calypso as not just something associated with carnival, but a 24-hour business, you know, that they can invest in. I think over the years, Carnival, Calypso, and everybody have become too accustomed to and therefore dependent on government subventions that you hear the kind of nonsense I'm hearing, that if government don't give us money, we're not playing, we're not singing, we're not performing, we're not jumping, we're not having it. So to end it, I'd say that personally, I would like to see steel ban saved. I do not see anything wrong with the ministry or the department of what's it called, the new Ministry of Culture,
Creative Services?
Creative Industries. Creative Industries. Yeah. I can see the Ministry of Creative Industries deciding that, listen, steel ban is an essential part of carnival. It is the only instrument that has been discovered in the Caribbean in the last 2 centuries. And it is not a Trinidad thing, but a Caribbean thing. And given its historical role in carnival, that we could find a way of nurturing its return, not necessarily to do away with the amplified sounds, but to let people know, or bands know, that if you want the steel band, at least there may be a band that will offer you the steel band.
I heard some interesting points on RSL last night between Striker and Kennedy Booth Salmon, who were commenting on the, along with Shane Ross, on the Panorama competition last night.
Oh, I thought they were discussing categorization of whining. How they call the thing? Boxing? How they
a number
chipping and whining.
Chipping and whining and grinding. A number of schools I've learned who had steel pan groups and were teaching steel pan at that level have now, you know, died out. You know, perhaps again a reflection of the lack of interest, not just among the students, but the population generally, in steel band and preserving the art form. I remember groups like Allegro Pan Groove, an all-female pan side. Where are they now? And my understanding is that the Diamond Steel, is suffering a similar fate. But you made a very good point today, and you made a previous point that I want to refer to when we were talking about jazz and keeping these art forms relevant and current, throughout the year. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, what is stopping us from having panorama at other key times of the year? Independence, National Day, other significant, or just, for the sake of, keeping it alive and relevant. Put on a concert, we talk about the fact that it's the only instrument that we have invented here. I watched on YouTube, interestingly, a Swiss steel pan group, and if you didn't know better and you just heard it, you would think it probably a Trinidad, local group.
Well, let me tell you more.
Until you saw all white faces.
Let me tell you more. Who has the patent, or what you call it?
Another West Indian.
Japanese. For steel band. A Japanese has the patent for steel band when steel band was invented in Trinidad and Tobago. One would hope that the government of Trinidad and Tobago, not hope, I'm sure they are aware of that and would work to maybe negotiate with that guy or group with a view to repatriating the sovereignty of steel band to Trinidad and the Caribbean. But
do they even want to?
Do
they even want to?
Well, I don't see why they should not.
Because it's a very versatile instrument, and I can see, maybe the same Beausejour Stadium being the venue for maybe a major...
a quarterly competition. That at the end of the year... Not even
a competition, but, just to put on a show.
A show.
Where you can highlight the versatility of the instrument by maybe having different segments. We play classical music, pop music, because it is that versatile, So
no, I mean, look, the Venezuelan Symphonic Orchestra was here recently, and they played in Labrie, right? And at the show in Labrie, what did Labrie offer back? A steel band group, and it was the first time members of the Venezuelan Symphony were seeing and hearing steel band, and they were amazed. They were young classical musicians, but that was one instrument they had never seen, heard, and couldn't understand what it was, and that little group from Labrie with their steel band made St. Lucia proud in the presence of a world-renowned group that is over 40-something years old, and with world records. But the steel band, I mean, I go to China. I go to China. I went to a restaurant once, and this Chinese fellow was playing steel band. And I say, well, he had to be a Trinidad Chinese. And I went up to him, and he couldn't understand me because he was Chinese. And through the interpreter, he told me, a Trinidadian taught him how to play it, and he has been teaching others how to play it. So wherever steel band goes, it makes it. And folks, I think we need to make a special effort. Those of you who haven't been brought over to steel band, listen to it with a different air after our discussion this evening.
A lot of other stories that we can talk about. We were talking about the coverage of Carnival. That's how we started off. I want to talk about something a little more serious. Well, not that Carnival isn't serious. The death of Yana Ogist. The media has taken a lot of blows, and as a matter of fact, a couple of the papers today, there are several articles on her death, a couple of them on the media coverage, of the incident. I know DBS took a lot of blows as well. I wasn't at work at that time, but I saw the news. The body was exposed, it wasn't blurred. There have been comments made on Facebook, videos circulated on Facebook, which has raised the issue again of the role of social media. Should the police now get involved? Should the legal system come into play, to restrict people's ability to circulate, that sort of material? A lot of the times, it's not the media, the mainstream media, that is at the scene, but ordinary or citizen journalists,
reporters
who have the technology at their hands, and who shoot those videos, and the media picks it up, carries it. In one case, I think the Star today spoke about the fact that the Royal Signature Police Force may have members who actually have access to footage and photographs who sell to the media, something that Errol Alexander says is a possibility and he's looking into. But we're due for a break, so when we take that break, we can come back and perhaps we can talk about the media's coverage of the young lady's death and the coverage of such incidents generally. This is the Press Club. We'll be right back.